math class. So today we're moving on to lesson 5 of chapter 11. This is our last lesson of the chapter, so way to go. Look at that, you're learning, and we are still moving and grooving on our math, so that's awesome. All right, so today we're taking all of our understanding about angles and we're really applying it to real life problem solving. So I'm going to give you a couple examples, and after that you'll have an opportunity to work through some practice problems on your own. So first, let's start off with imagining that I am retiling my kitchen floor. I did tell you guys I bought a new house recently. We've got a lot of home projects to do, right? So if I want to create a pattern as I'm tiling my floor with these square tiles, I decided that I wanted to cut them in half, right, diagonally, so that I could make a pattern that was something like this. All right, so that's what I'm kind of going for. So I've got my square tile here, and I'm wondering if I cut my tile in half along this line segment that you see here, what angle is going to be on the other side of my tile, my leftover part? So we're going to use an equation to set up our thinking. You'll see in your book sometimes they talk about a bar model. I'm not super concerned about that. I'd rather see your equation because that's where we're really seeing that mathematical thinking. So let's start with what we know, right? As we look at this square, we know that angle BAC, right? Angle BAC, that's the right angle. That's 90 degrees. Then we know that the angle that we cut, which is angle DAC, is 45 degrees. So this angle that we're trying to find, angle BAD, bad angle. Angle BAD is that mystery angle. Now you might be like, Ms. Sharma, I already know the answer because I know how to find it. Awesome, great. I still want us to set up that equation, okay? So let's actually set up our work. We know that if we took this total measure of this whole angle, right? If we took angle BAC, subtracted from it what we're going to cut off, which is angle DAC, that we would be left with the measure of that leftover piece, that leftover angle BAD. Now, you're going to substitute in the actual measures of the angles instead of these angle symbols to actually create our equation. So we know that angle BAC is 90 degrees. We know angle DAC is 45 degrees, and we're looking for the measure of this angle BAD. Now, you probably already know that 45 times 2 is 90, right? 45 is half of 90. So 90 minus 45 would give us 45. So the measure of angle BAD is 45 degrees. We can check our work by adding together these two angles to see if we get to 90 degrees. So if we do that, 45 degrees for BAD plus 45 degrees for angle DAC, 5 and 5 is 10, 4 and 4 is 8, plus 1 is 90. My total measure, angle BAC, was 90 degrees, so I got the correct answer. All right, so that one was a little bit easy because I know that you already know what half of 90 degrees is. But we're going to take it a step further and make it a little bit more challenging now. So another thing that I've had to do in my house is replace some of the trim. Some of the trim was missing. So let me show you what trim is. See this white stuff on the floor between the wall and the carpet, this white part? That's your trim, all right? So when we've got trim to replace, sometimes it might be a little bit too long or too short for the wall that it's on. So in our case, I had a piece of trim, but it was a little bit too short. So I needed to join two pieces of trim together. But I didn't want the cut where the trim was to be super visible, so I made that cut on an angle. All right, so here's my piece of trim. I've got these points down at the bottom, H, J, and K, and I made a diagonal cut in my trim of 55 degrees. Now, my question is, what's the measure of the angle that I need to cut the other half of the trim and the other side of the trim where I'm going to connect them together? If I want them to line up perfectly, what angle do I need to cut that trim at? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to set up an equation just like we did on that previous problem, right? Use what you know. We know the measure of angle HJK. Sometimes we don't even think of that as an angle because it looks like a straight line, right? But HJK is a straight angle. So angle HJK is a straight angle. You know that that measures 180 degrees. If you're like, wait, Miss Sharma, how do we know that again? Go back to our circles. Remember what we were talking about the other day? We know when we've got a 90-degree angle in a circle that automatically makes 3 other right angles, right? So if I look at just 2 of them, right? If I look at, let's say, just this part here, this angle, right, I know would be 90 plus 90, which would give me 180, right? So if you're like, wait, Ms. Sharma, how is a straight angle 180 degrees again? Think back to your circle. Okay, so angle HJK, 180 degrees. Now I know the measure of the angle that I already cut, which is angle LJK, right? LJK, and that angle measures 55 degrees. But the angle that I don't know, they've named it as angle X, degrees in X, right, is angle HJL. So angle HJL, and it's X degrees, right? X is my unknown, it's my variable. It's some amount, and I'm trying to figure that out. So now I'm going to set up my equation. I know that if I took my total amount, right, my total angle that I'm starting with, which is HJK, I took away angle LJK, and then I'll be left with angle HJL, right? So let me actually substitute in the measures of my angles to find my answer. So my measure of the angle HJK is 180 degrees. Measure of angle LJK is 55 degrees. And then that will give me X degrees, which will be the measure of angle HJL, right? If I need to go over here and do my subtraction vertically, let's do that so we don't make any silly mistakes. I can't subtract 0 from 5, so I need to regroup. 10 minus 5 is 5. 7 minus 5 is 2. And there's nothing there, so I'm going to bring that 1 down, and I get 125. So X equals 125 degrees, right? So the measure of angle HJL is 125 degrees. Now, how can we double check that? We could use that inverse operation like we did before. The inverse of subtraction is addition. Hopefully you all said that with me, right? So let's use that inverse operation. So I could take 125 plus 55, and I should get, right, if I have 125 up here and 155, I should get a straight line. And a straight line, I know a straight angle is 180 degrees. So let's see if we get that. 5 plus 5 is 10. I'll regroup. 5 plus 2 plus 1. 5 plus 2 is 7. Plus 1 is 8. Bring down that 1. I get 180 degrees. So we were correct, right? We found that straight angle, 180. So the measure of that missing angle, HJK, was 125 degrees. All right, guys. So today we used our problem-solving, real-life thinking skills in order to solve real-world problems, right? The most important part of this is setting up that equation and making sure that you're using the information that you know. So, for example, you know that a straight angle is 180 degrees. In that previous problem, we know that a right angle is 90 degrees. Use what you know in order to solve your problems, and then make sure you use your logical mathematical thinking to create your equations. All right, guys, you got this. Let me know if you have any questions, but you're going to do a great job. Nice work.
Mama, Baba.